Bim bam, bim 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 bam, bim 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 bam, bim bam, bim 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 bam, bim 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 bam. Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat 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 shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat 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 shalom. Bim bam, bim 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 bam, bim 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 bam. Shabbat shalom, everyone. I'm Rabbi Benjamin Zober, and well, you may be wondering where Rabbi Sarah is. She is downstairs at Command Central as usual, but she's overcoming a little bit of a cold that's been going around our family, and she's been coughing a bit and didn't think that she would be able to sing through the service. So I will be taking over completely. We had worked out that we would every now and then one of us would take a break and the other one would lead services by themselves. So last week I led with Toby Peckner, and this week I lead with me. I don't think I negotiated that right, but I'm very glad that you are here to join me, and I'm glad that I've got the whole family downstairs as our cheering section. Wherever you are, thank you so much for joining us. If you have not yet downloaded our virtual Siddur, it is available right there, information on that. Or if you have Mishkan Tefillah, we will be using that, and I will do my best to shout out the page numbers as we jump around and skip around and do all sorts of crazy groovy things. So we begin at the beginning of the virtual Siddur, or page 8, if you've got the hard copy with a reading. We read together. I begin with a prayer of gratitude for all that is holy in my life. God needs no words, no English or Hebrew, no semantics and no services, but I need them. Through prayer, I can sense my inner strength, my inner purpose, my inner joy, my capacity to love. As I reach upward in prayer, I sense these qualities in my Creator. To love God is to love each other. To work to make our lives better. To love God is to love the world God created and to work to perfect it. To love God is to love dreams of peace and joy that illumine all of us, and to bring that vision to life. As you can see, we have our favorite guest here with us, Ramona, for the candle lighting. It's on the next page in the virtual Siddur, or on page 2 in the prayer book.
I came early.
No. Okay. We'll try that again.
It's over.
That's much better. Ready? Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. As we continue our welcoming of the Shabbat, we will sing Ma Yafeh Hayom. It is found on page 10 in the prayer books. Ma Yafeh Hayom, Shabbat Shalom. Ma Yafeh Hayom, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. And I already welcomed in my first guest of the evening, Ramona, for the candle lighting, but now we all will welcome in the Sabbath bride with the singing of Lecha Dodi. It begins on page 20, and as is our custom, we will sing verses 1, 2, 5, and 9. And if you are able and would like to do so when we reach the 9th and final verse, you would turn to the entrance of wherever you are and welcome the Sabbath bride into your midst. And we bow and we say, Boi Kala, Boi Kala. Lecha Dodi likrat kala yadadai 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 pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala yadadai 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 pnei Shabbat nekabela. Shamor v'zachor v'dibur echad. Ishmeyanu elam yuchad, Adonai echad, Ushemo echad, Nashemu tiferet v'letehila, Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Yadadai, 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 Pnei Shabbat, Nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Yadadai, 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 Pnei Shabbat, Nekabela. Likrat Shabbat, Lechu v'nilcha, Hi mekor habrecha, Mirosh mikedem, Nesucha, Sof ma'aseh b'machshavat chila, Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Yadadai, 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 Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Yadadai, 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 Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Hitoreri, hitoreri, Kiva orech kumi uri, 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 shir daberi, Kvod Adonai alayich nigla, Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Yadadai, 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 Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Yadadai, 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 Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Boi v'shalom ateret bala, Kam b'simcha u'v'tohola, Toch emunei am segula, Boi chala, Boi chala, Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Yadadai, 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 Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Yadadai, 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 Pnei Shabbat nekabela. You may be seated. We continue right along with Chatzi Kaddish, which can be found on page 26 or right on the next page in the virtual Siddur. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbah, V'alma divrach yirute v'yamlich malchute, V'chayechon uv'yomechon, uv'chayedecho beit Yisrael, Pagala, Pagala, Uvizmahan Kariv, Vimeru, Amen. Yehi Shmei Rabba Mevarach, Le'alamul Me'almaya, Yitbarach, Yitbarach, V'yishtabach, V'yitpar, V'yitromam, V'yitnaseh, V'yithadar, V'yitale, V'yithalal, Shemei Kudesha Berichu, Leila min kol birchata v'shirata, Tushbechata v'nechem hata damiran be'alma v'meru. Amen. We rise for the Baruch Hu, page 28. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach Yadai 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 Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed Yadai Yadai Yadai. We continue in the English on the next page. Blessed are you, Adonai our God, ruler of the universe, who speaks the evening into being, skillfully opens the gates, thoughtfully alters the time and changes the seasons, and arranges the stars in their heavenly courses according to plan. You are creator of day and night, rolling light away from darkness and darkness from light, transforming day into night and distinguishing one from the other. Adonai Tsevaot is your name. Ever-living God, may you reign continually over us into eternity. Blessed are you, Adonai, who brings on evening. Baruch atah Adonai, Amariv Aravim. Ahavat Olam is found on the next page. Ahavat Olam, Bet Yisrael, Amcha ahavta, Amcha ahavta, Torah umitzvot, Chukim u'mishpatim, Otanu limadata, Al ken Adonai Eloheinu b'shokvenu, kumenu nasiach b'chukecha, v'nismach b'divrei Toratecha, uv'mitzvotecha le'olam va'ed, ki hem chayenu, v'yorech yameinu, Uvahem nage yomam v'layla, ve'ahavatcha al tasir, mimenu le'olamim. Baruch atah Adonai, ohev amo Yisrael, ohev amo Yisrael. Shema can be found on the next page. If you are able, please rise. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto, Leolam Vaed. You may be seated. We continue together with the V'ahavta, page 36. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha uv'chol nafshecha uv'chol meodecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavacha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta shivtecha b'veitecha uv'rechtecha v'aderech u'shokbecha uv'kumecha u'kshartam laot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot b'neinecha u'chtavtam al mezuzot beitecha u'v'hisharecha למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת. We read on page 45 together. Don't worry, we'll come back if you are in the Siddur. We are a people in whom the past endures, in whom the present is inconceivable without moments gone by. The Exodus lasted a moment enduring forever. What happened once upon a time happens all the time. On page 40, we join together with Mi Chamocha. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi chamocha nehedar b'kodesh, nora tehilot osef eleh, nora tehilot osef eleh. Malchutecha ra'u v'necha, bokei ayam lifnei Moshe, ze lianu ve'amaru, ze lianu ve'amaru. Adonai imloch leolam va'ed, Adonai imloch leolam va'ed. V'ne'emar kifad Adonai et Yaakov, ugalo miyad chazak mimenu, baruch atah Adonai gal Yisrael. And we read together the top of page 43. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Adonai, help us to walk with good companions, to live with hope in our hearts and eternity in our thoughts, that we may lie down in peace and rise up waiting to do your will. Baruch atah Adonai, aparei sukat shalom aleinu, ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim. Vishamru can be found on the next page. Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם, ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. We all rise for the Amidah, page 46. Adon Adonai Sefatayv Tiftach Ufi Agita Hilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'koneh HaKol, V'zocher Chaste Avot V'imahot, Umevi Geula Livnei V'nehem, Leman Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshia U'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham Vezrat Sarah. Ata Gibor Leolam Adonai, Mechaye HaKol Ata Rav Lehoshia, Mashiv HaRuach Umarid HaGashem, Mechalkel Chaim B'Chesed, Mechaye HaKol Berachamim Rabim, Sohomech Noflim Berofech Oholim, Umatir Asurim, Umekahayim Emunato Lishenei Afar, Michamocha Bal Givurot, Umidom Melach, Melech Memit, Umechaye, Umatmiach Yeshua, V'ne'emanata l'hachayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechaye hakol. Ata kadosh, v'shimcha kadosh, u'kedoshim b'chol yom yehalu chasela, Baruch atah Adonai, ha'el hakadosh. Please take these next few moments for silent prayer. Oseh Shalom can be found on page 62. Oseh Shalom Bimrama, Hu Yaseh Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael, V'imru, Imru, Amen. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. We turn now to our Torah service for our reading from Torah and our sermon. Our Torah service begins on page 245. Assemble the people, men, women, and children, and the strangers in your cities, to hear, to learn, to revere Adonai your God, to observe faithfully the words of this Torah. And let their children who do not yet know it hear, that they too may learn to revere Adonai your God. And we turn back to page 86 for our blessing for the study of Torah. We say together, Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. Our Torah reading this evening, it comes from the end of Parshat Noach, Genesis verses 11:29 to 32. We are just meeting some characters who may be important later on and throughout the story. I don't know. You'll just have to tune in every week or join Torah study to find out. Vayikach Avram v'nachor lahem nashim shem eshet Avram Sarai v'shem asher Nahor Milka bat Haran avi Milka v'avi Yizkah v'tihi Sarai akara ein lai valad v'yikach terach et Avram bano ve'et Lot ben Haran ben bano ve'et Sarai kalato eshet Avram bano v'yitzu itam me'ur kazdim lelechet arza Kanan ve'yavo'u ad Haran ve'yishvu sham ve'yihyu yamei terach chamesh shanim u'matayim shana vayamot terach b'Haran. We think now of those in our community who need a bit of healing, whether it is of body, of mind, or of spirit. At this time, we are thinking of Harav Aharon Ben Tova, Wendy Alderman, Ilka Ashenoff, Ramon Chavez, Les Cohen, Megan Carney Cranmer, Lisa Gaskins, Sarah Gogwin, Marlene Harris, Diana Johns, Barb McBrady, Steve Meyerson, Pesach Ben Akiva, Charlotte Rutkovitz, Shirley Rutkovitz, the Ryan Seiler family, Steve Strauss, Jessica Wadatz, Yisraela Devira Bat Avraham Vasara, Ahmad Zaror, Hamida Deri, Rabbi Jonathan Sachs, and everyone affected by the coronavirus. To those names, you add those that you have shared either in the chat or in your hearts. Our song for healing Misha Berach can be found on page 253. Misha Berach Avotenu Makor HaBracha Leimotenu, may the source of strength who bless the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Misheberach imotenu Makor HaBrecha Le'avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen. We continue and close out our Torah service with a responsive reading on page 257. When Torah entered the world, freedom entered it. The whole Torah exists only to establish peace. That is the whole Torah. All the rest is commentary. Go and learn it. Those who study Torah are the true guardians of civilization. Let us learn in order to teach. Let us learn in order to do. So as I mentioned, this sermon is one that Rabbi Sarah wrote. So if you like it, she gets all of the credit. If you don't like it, blame me. I made lots and lots of changes. So anything that is no good in it is probably my fault. So good. I'm glad we established that from the beginning. All right. Every Saturday morning, about 12 of us hop into a Zoom room, each with a different translation or commentary on the Torah, and we go verse by verse through the Hebrew Bible. We have Hebrew scholars, Hebrew learners, people who can't read a single Hebrew letter, all studying side by side and enjoying a deep dive into our most sacred text. For the last few months, we in Torah study have been studying this week's parasha, Parshat Noach. Now, Noach is a part of what we call our proto-history. It's a time before there were Israelites, before Abraham, even the world was still young and being created by God. Now, Noach is a character that many of us have found ourselves identifying with this year, as he and his family survive the most cataclysmic event in the Torah. We all know the story. God tells Noach to make a teva, an ark, in which he and his family will survive the flood, and with them to bring a menagerie of animals. Rabbi Sarah has a collection of Noah's arks. She has pictures. She has a cookie jar, a teapot, an adorable knit ark that opens up to admit knit animals that was made by Marilyn Roberts. And sometimes, often, we think of this as a children's story, a theme for a nursery, adorable little animals marching 2 by 2 up the ramp while Noach and his wife Nama smile down from the deck above. But what many of us don't realize, and what many in the Torah study group didn't realize until we started studying it in depth, is that Noah's life is tragic and horrifying. It all starts with this stay in the ark. God never tells Noah how long he will have to stay there. We, as an omniscient reader, we know that the waters fell for 40 days and 40 nights, but Noah was left to wonder. And after those 40 days and the 40 nights, the waters sat high above the earth for another 150 days. Just as a matter of reference, we closed the synagogue on March 13th. And 190 days, the 150 and the 40, 190 days after that was Rosh Hashanah morning this year. And so 190 days, Noah and his family alone in that ark, alone in the world. It would take 371 days altogether from start to finish before Noah and his family could once again stand on dry ground. Again, for reference, we are only 224 days away from having been present in the synagogue. It's been eerie reading about Noah's isolation in this time of social distancing. We mused about the health of his family, cooped up, all of them, Noah and Nama and the kids and in-laws all together. Commentators mention that no children were born during this time, and indeed that the men and the women stayed separate the entire time that they were on the ark, not wanting to create new life while so much death raged around them. We imagine their helplessness, their terror as the rains fell, the endless work keeping animals fed and separated, and keeping the cramped living quarters clean. Noah's family, like us, were surviving something far greater than themselves. Noah's tale is a cautionary one. Noah and his sons and their wives were the only survivors of the flood, isolated and shut into the ark as the waters rose. At one point, God tells Noah to get his sons and their wives and to seal themselves into the ark, by which the medieval commentators say, in their wild and vivid imaginations, that they imagined God coming down to earth to hold the door of the ark against Noah's fellow villagers, trying to break down the door, desperate to get inside with the flooding rains. This reminds us starkly that the ark had only windows at the very top, so that the people inside wouldn't have to watch other humans die. But how could they not think about it? How could they not hear their fellow humans' desperation from their place of safety? The Zohar, the chief work of Kabbalah, recounts a conversation between Noah and God that took place after the flood. It asks this question: what did God say to Noah when he left the ark and saw the world destroyed? Noah began to cry and says to God, "Master of the universe, you were called compassionate. You should have been compassionate for your creation." God responded and said, "You are a foolish shepherd. Now you say this? Why did you not say this when I told you that I saw you were righteous among your generation? Or after, when I said that I would bring a flood upon the people? Or after that, when I said to build an ark? I constantly delayed for you, saying, when is Noah going to ask for compassion in the world? And now that the world is destroyed, you open your mouth to cry in front of me and ask for supplication?" In this midrash, God chastises Noah for his inaction to save others and for voicing his horror only after everyone had died. Noah was commanded to build an ark and save his family, but he did not even try to save one person more than God told him to save. This parasha should ring differently in our ears this year. With public spaces being so unsafe, with the uncertainty of not knowing who will live or who will die from this virus, with all of us confined in spaces, isolated and even alone, we all may begin to understand Noah's life a bit more. The Zohar points to the real question of living in tragic times. Who is it that we can save? Who is it that we should be fighting for when these kinds of tragedies strike? We have to ask these questions because the alternative is anger, which will solve nothing. It is tempting to be angry at God. After all, viruses and floods are acts of God, not things that we have responsibility for creating. But when these tragedies strike, we must remember that we have our own choices. We can choose to take on sometimes crippling isolation to keep the people that we love safe, like Noah did. But we can also go one step further and become a shepherd, far better than Noah, and include other people around us in our plans. Today, on a day which we have seen the highest number of people diagnosed with this terrible disease, both in our country and in our county, this is our question. When looking out of the safety of our arks, how are we relinquishing our power to save others? We cannot prevent this tragedy alone, nor can we stop it by ourselves. But we can make a difference to many more people than just our immediate families. Noah preserved entire species with a single pair on his ark. Imagine what we could do for each person we fight for from ours. In our midrash from the Zohar, God gives Noah many opportunities to speak up, delaying the inevitable over and over. with this pandemic, with the upcoming election, we need to look closely at the opportunities we may be missing to exercise our power and make things better, not just for ourselves, but for those around us as well. Shabbat Shalom. We continue with Aleinu, which in the Siddur is found at the bottom of page 282. Aleinu leshabeach l'adon hakol, latet gedula leotzer bereshit, shelo asanu k'gaye haratzot, velo samanu k'mishpachot ha'adama. Shelo sam chalkenu kahem, v'gohor aleinu kachol hamonam, v'anachnu korim, umishtachavim umodim, livnei melech malchei hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Page 285. Let the time not be distant, O God, when all shall turn to you in love, when corruption and evil shall give way to integrity and goodness, when superstition shall no longer enslave the mind, nor idolatry blind the eye. O may all created in your image become one in spirit and one in friendship, forever united in your service. Then shall your realm be established on earth, and the word of your prophet fulfilled. Adonai will reign forever and ever. Page 287. V'nemar v'haya Adonai l'melech al kol haaretz, Bayom hahu, yeh Adonai echad, u'shemo echad. You may be seated. We think now of our loved ones whom death has recently taken from us, those who died at this season in years past, and those whom we have drawn into our hearts with our own. Zichronam livracha. At this time, we are remembering Jack Robinson, Arthur Ashkin, Proctor R. Hug Jr., Faina Goose, Nancy Livingston, Ralph Wolfstein, Richard Heller, Noel Frankel, Michael Lewis Goldstein, Michael James Lordier, Norma Morhar, Moshe Avnir, Millard Petersky, Ivan Appleruth, Miguel Wicki, Amitza Bat Avraham Vasara, Aaron Ben Beryl Vasara, Enrique Monteverde Nimbriotis, Alan R. Priddy, Al Feldman, Rabbi Sigma Faye Haran, Laurie Frankel, William Friedlander, Florence Conti, Sanford Arnold Eisenstadt, Joe Johns, Sherwin Sider. In this Shabbat, we commemorate the yahrzeits of Joe Eisenman, Michael Farrell, Leo M. Ginsberg, Herman Lazar, Jack Rubin, Annabelle Medvin, Janice Palenker, Lou Baracus, Yetta Fox Einhorn, Sid Matlis, Herbert F. Blank, Charles Gingold, Barbara Jeskin, Marcia Sivan Levens, Gasha Mitchell, Betty Browdy, and Jacob Pinschauer. Those names and the names that you have added in your hearts in the comments, Kaddish Yatom, can be found on page 294. If it is your custom, please rise. Yitgadal v'yitkadash Shemei Rabbah, v'alma divrach Yerutei v'amlich malchutei, v'chayachon uv'yomechon uv'chaye dechol Beit Yisrael, v'agala uv'izman kariv v'imru Amen. Yehei Shemei Rabbah mevarach le'alam ulmei almaya, Yitbarach, V'yishtabach, V'yitpa'ar, V'yitromam, V'yitnaseh, V'yithadar, V'yithale, V'yithalal, Shemei Dekudisha Barichu, Leila Min Kol Birchata V'shirata, Tushbachata V'nechemata, Ta'amiran Be'alma V'imru Amen. Yehi Shlama Rabba Min Shemaya, V'chaim Aleinu Ve'al Kol Yisrael V'imru Amen. Oseh Shalom B'mromav, Hu Ya'aseh Shalom Aleinu Ve'al Kol Yisrael V'imru Amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us and to all who mourn, to which we say, Amen. Let's see, we do have a few announcements for you this evening. Let's see what's going on. Tomorrow morning, of course, is Torah study. Perhaps the exploration of Noach and the little bits that were sprinkled into the sermon have whet your appetite for Torah study. So if you are interested, that is tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. via Zoom. We will actually be starting with the next parasha. We have come to the end of Noach and we are moving on to Lech Lecha. So we will be maybe quite ready for next Shabbat, but we would love to have you join us for that. If you are able, like I said, no prior experience is necessary, so all are welcome, and it is a whole lot of fun. We have Sinai School this weekend. We are going to be out in nature this week. We are meeting for a distanced and masked but outdoors in-person Sinai School Bateva, Sinai School in nature. So if you have Sinai School kids, be sure to check your emails to have directions as to where to go and to what to bring. There's some goodies in your box that will be part of the activity. It promises to be a whole lot of fun and just nice to get out and see each other, even if it is at a safe distance. On Wednesday night this week, we have a few Temple Sinai committee meetings. So check with your committee chair if you are meeting this week. I know a couple of them switched it up a little bit, but find out that so you can stay up on that and help our committees do all of the amazing things they do. And let's see, next week we will be right back at it again with a Kabbalat Shabbat service. Let's see what else is coming up. Daylight saving time is coming to an end at the beginning of next month, so maybe mark your calendars for that. They say that the phones do it automatically. I don't trust them, so I walk around for 3 days not knowing if my phone updated or not. So if I'm completely miss a meeting that you have with me, that's probably why. And let's see. Then that following Friday, we are going to have a Tat Shabbat service. So if you're a Tat Shabbat family, stay tuned for the details and Zoom login on that. I think that's everything. Oh, vote. That's the other thing. Of course, it is a Jewish value to vote. There's a story of a famous rabbi. Someone came to him and said that he could not afford to vote. He was living in a place where there was a poll tax, and the rabbi said, "Sell your tefillin, sell your ritual objects." And the man was a bit surprised that this rabbi was selling him to tell them. And he said, "You can borrow your tefillin from someone else, but you can't borrow someone else's vote." It is absolutely important that all of us get out and make our voices heard. Our democracy only works when as many of us as possible participate in it. So please, please, please get out and vote. There are many, many ways to do it. There's some early voting. There is in-person. There's mail-in. There are a ton of options. I would imagine you have gotten a number of mailings and various pieces of information about it. So I won't harp on that anymore. So please vote. And I think that's everything that we have to share. I'm not getting any, this just in, I don't have an earpiece. Okay, so we will, our closing song tonight is Shalom Aleichem. It is found on page 320. What page is 300? It's 323 in the prayer book. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharetz, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem LaShalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Barchuni LaShalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzedchem LaShalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And we will close with Kiddush. I suddenly realize I don't have a Kiddush cup, but wherever you are, hopefully you have a glass of some fruit of the vine, and we'll raise it on my behalf as we say our prayer. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei pari hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho be'ahava uvratzon, chimchi lanu, zikaron lema'aseh v'reishit, Ihu yom techila lemikrae kodesh, zecher letziat mitzrayim, ki banu v'charta, yotanu kidashta, mikol hamim, v'shabbat kodshecha, ve'ahava uratzon, Inchaltanu, Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat. L'chaim. Shabbat shalom, everyone.